we've got sexy and sultry Prince up in here for this episode of the Press Rewind Prince Lyrics Podcast. It's time to get scandalous. And joining me on this episode is Chris Lacy. Welcome back to the show, Chris.
Hey, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Welcome. I know Batman is kind of your jam, man. Like, not just the song Bat Dance or the album, but we're doing Scandalous today, another one of your favorite songs, if I understand correctly.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I guess as I've been asking all of my guests for the Batman album, I want them to tell me their Batman experience. So, like, what was it about the Batman album that you saw intrigued you, or was it a sound? Was it the whole multimedia experience to go along with the movie? What is it about Batman, Chris, that draws you in? And kind of give me a little bit more about your history with the album.
Sure. So yeah, my first exposure to the Batman album was through the movie. And because I was born in 90, I didn't check out the movie until I was like 14, 15 years old. And I remember just watching through to the end credits whenever Danny Elfman's theme is playing. And the next thing I knew, the music switches and I hear Scandalous. And I remember stopping dead in my tracks. And I'm thinking to myself, who the heck is this? And as the credits, come to a close, I see Prince. And I'm like, so that's who that is. Because before that, I just had cursory knowledge of Prince. Like I knew of Purple Rain, 1999 and Kiss, but that was pretty much it. Because I was obsessed with Michael Jackson's music for most of my life. So that was like my first bite of the purple rock, if we could say. And then later on, for my 21st birthday, my mom surprised me with Prince tickets. And I saw him during the Welcome to America tour. And he happened to slide in Scandalous. And I went berserk because it took me way back to when I was 14, 15. And I heard the song for the first time. And then fast forward to 2016, I joined albumism.com. It's a music journalism website that most people have probably heard of by this point. They've got a huge following now. But that's when I first started writing, like, officially. Prior to that, I didn't have a journalism degree or anything to my name. I was simply a guy that loved having musical conversations online. And that's how I got the invitation to write for Albumism. So fast forwarding to 2019, that's when the Batman album is celebrating its 30th anniversary. And, our head editor, said, hey, does anyone want to take a stab at this? And I'm like, yeah, I'll take it. But by that time, my opinion of the album was a negative one because I pretty much, I just read what most people had to say about the Batman album. And, going into, writing about it, really the only songs I cared for were Party Man, Scandalous, and Bat Dance, and all three of those were singles. But the more time I spent with the album, the more I thought to myself, man, I don't get why people hate this record. To me, it has everything that a classic Prince record should have. So that was my approach going into Batman 30 is like, I'm going to create a defense piece where anyone that has a problem with Batman, I'm going to make it extremely hard for you to have this same opinion after you read my article. And the response I got was phenomenal. Like, I couldn't even believe it. Like, even now, Albumism each year will, they'll celebrate, the most read articles in the entire history of the website. And to this day, my Batman piece is still in the top 5. And I'm stunned by that. So since then, I do have the article on my medium.com page. So I'm happy to give you the link and we can put it in the show notes or whatever we need to. But that to me was when I found my voice as a storyteller. Because prior to that, I had done articles for albumism.com, but I was trying to write like everybody else because I had no idea what I was doing. But it was the Batman album that helped me find my voice as a storyteller. And again, just seeing the responses I got from that article let me know, okay, I need to, if someone reads something, I want it to feel like a Chris Lacy piece. I don't want it to feel like something they read on Pitchfork or, Pop Matters or wherever. I want people to know, like Chris Lacy wrote this and this is dope. So that's, that has a lot to do with my love for the Batman album. Scandalous was my first bite of the purple rock, and we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, we are. And absolutely, I think that's a great idea. I will link in whatever way you want me to link it, like to your Medium. You said medium.com. That would be maybe the best way I can link it so people can check it out if they haven't already. Because, Batman Defense is a thing. Like, as you mentioned, it was receiving a lot of hate for a while.
It was.
And I mentioned this in previous episodes. I really think it's not because of the perceived quality of Batman. It's just because of what came before it. And what came before it, as many think, is one of the greatest album runs, decade-long album runs in the history of music.
For sure.
Stevie Wonder would be up there as well, but in his 70s run. But boy, it's really hard to stack up an 80s run like Prince had. And Batman is where some people start to cite a drop-off in quality. And but you throw Batman in against a lot of other people's, third, fourth, fifth best album, it doesn't compare for the most part. So many other artists, have maybe 1, 2, 3 good solid albums. If Batman is Prince's 15th or 20th best album, that is high praise considering how good it is. That just says how strong his discography is, top to bottom. If you're calling something with as much quality on it as Batman, a guy's 20th best record or 15th best record.
Seriously,
I think I have it probably in my top 20, but I don't think I have it in my top 10. And I love Batman. I love Batman.
Yeah.
That's me saying that.
No. And I'm glad you said that, because that, again, the conviction that I had as I was researching this album the first go around, I'm like, okay, I want to come up with an airtight checklist of everything that people expect in a classic Prince record. And if you go back and you stack Batman up to that checklist, like it ticks off the boxes emphatically. So I'll go through that checklist really quick. Cinematic storytelling, genre blurring sounds, limitless vocal range, guitar god moments, global appeal, and that slight touch of the bizarre. Like if you compare that checklist to any other classic Prince record or a record that you can consider a classic, then you'll find those elements in there. And when I stack that up with Batman, it ticks off all the boxes. So to me, and again, there's a little bit of bias in there, but objectively, you can make an argument for it to be top 10 in Prince's records. So that's my take on it. Okay.
Well, folks will be able to read your take and decide for themselves if they agree or if they don't agree or whatever, or somewhere in between. So that's the beauty of music, is subjectivity, and some lively and spirited debates ones can have against pitting music against each other. It's all subjective, so it's really just all about us trying to things that we love, trying to get other people to enjoy it in the same way we do, and trying to open their eyes and help them understand why we find something so compelling or so amazing for us, that maybe that person won't understand it or never get it, which is fine, but we can have that conversation, and nobody's wrong, right? I mean, that's the beauty of it. Nobody's wrong. You can't be wrong with something subjective like art.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that's something that's missing from just everyday conversation, whether you're talking to someone face to face or even, and especially online, is that we've made many topics of this versus that, when sometimes there's room for both and I enjoy those nuanced conversations, especially when it comes to things that I enjoy, and one of them being Prince's music. So that's why I enjoy what you're doing with your channel, is you're inviting people with different worldviews and different perspectives, and the common interest or the common ground there is our appreciation for Prince. So that gives us an opportunity to not only share what we know, but there's also an opportunity for us to learn something from the other person.
Yeah, I mean, it's a rare artist that can have such a diverse body of work, where you could find two people that love Prince and love his music, but might have completely divergent tastes outside of Prince, or even within his own discography. So that is such a fascinating aspect of the Prince fandom, is you can find people that are rock fans, hip hop fans, R&B fans, soul fans, and they'll still find commonality within Prince, but they might gravitate towards certain parts of his discography or certain sounds, certain songs. And they're still, at the end of the day, enormous admirers of Prince and his music.
Yeah, for sure. Well said.
So let's move on to Scandalous. All right.
Yeah.
So Scandalous, just quick housekeeping, was the fourth single released from the Batman soundtrack. A soundtrack that only had 9 songs. 4 of them were released in the United States. 5 of them were released in some parts of some parts of the world. But in the United States, this was the fourth and final single released from the album. It was a pretty big hit on the R&B charts. It went top 5. So on that chart, and in certain markets and certain radio stations, really played this song a lot. Not too dissimilar, I think, probably for some of the successes he had on the radio, on black radio stations for songs like Adore, Do Me Baby. Like these types of ballads maybe didn't catapult Prince to the top of the pop charts, but they were heavy rotation songs on black radio stations and on the R&B charts. So people who say like, oh, well, Scandalous wasn't a big hit. Well, depends on where you're looking for hits.
Right.
It depends on which radio stations you were listening to in 1989. I believe if Prince Vault is accurate, which it normally is, this was recorded in October of 1988, which means that it predates Prince's involvement in Batman, because that really didn't start coming about until December of 88. So he had written and recorded this song with who knows what in mind. I don't think he even really maybe understood what he planned to do with it. He just knew he had an amazing ballad that he wanted to get out there, because he was juggling a few different projects, whether it was going to be he had the Rave into the Joy Fantastic project that he was working on. He started working on stuff for Graffiti Bridge. He was touring for Lovesexy, and then Batman came along, and all that stuff had to just kind of be put on back burner for the moment. And Scandalous works. It makes for a really cinematic, and you mentioned this word in your opening discussion about your piece for Albumism about Batman and your defense of it. You used the word cinematic, and I think this song has a very cinematic quality to it. And the filmmakers of the movie must have felt the same way, to include it as another song over the closing credits for the film. That's a pretty prominent placement in a movie. Like, this is only one of 3 songs from the soundtrack that really get prominent placement in the film itself. It doesn't have placement in any of the the scenes themselves, like Party Man and Trust. There's no like Joker scene or Batman scene that has Scandalous in the background, but to put the song on the closing credits also speaks to, I think, the quality and the strength that this song carries with it.
Yeah, I was going to make a quick comment about that. I came across a video online where they go into like the behind the scenes of each movie, and there's a rumor out there that there is a deleted scene on the cutting room floor at Warner Brothers where there was a love scene between Batman and Vicky Vale, where when she comes into the cave for the first time and she's connecting the dots of, okay, well, Bruce Wayne and Batman are the same person. They deleted a love scene of theirs, and Scandalous is on the backdrop of that. So I'm like, man, it'd be great if we could see what that would look like. If it's, they ever do like a, I don't know, like a Batman 50th edition or something.
Yeah, that would be kind of cool to see if it's still out there, if that footage still exists and didn't get lost to time. Another thing about this song is it's another one of those songs that Prince gave co-writing credit to his father, John L. Nelson. It's not documented if and what contributions his father made to this song. So, it could be something as simple as a melody that John had recorded on piano and Prince picked up, or, had something that he saw John do live and incorporated it into his, into this song, into this music. Or it could just simply be an instance where, Prince really felt inspired by him in some form or fashion and felt generous in offering him some co-writing credit. I mean, at the end of the day, co-writing credit, what does that give you somebody? It gives them a chance to earn money from royalties, you know.
Yep.
So
Yeah, from publishing. Yeah.
yeah,
And
it's important. Yeah.
yeah, and that was my takeaway from it, is that, based on the research I did, I couldn't find anything substantial that said, hey, this is what John contributed from a musical standpoint. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe this is Prince extending an olive branch to his dad, as a publishing flex in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, there's certainly theories out there that is what had occurred over the years. Whenever Prince would put his father's name as a co-writer, there's theories, unsubstantiated theories, because unless we're Prince, we'll never know.
Right.
But there are theories that he did that mainly to provide his father some opportunities to earn money from Prince's music.
Yeah.
From, like you said, publishing royalties. The last thing I want to mention about this song before we start looking and digging into the lyrics is just a real brief mention of the music video recorded for the song. I think it's a very stripped down, basic music video. Like, it's bare bones. It's Prince and a microphone. Instead of piano and a microphone, it's Prince and a microphone. It's got the black backdrop. He's wearing a red sleeveless outfit, and he's basically seducing the microphone and seducing the viewers of the video throughout the entire runtime. It's very kind of intimate video from a couple different perspectives, just because of Prince looking into the camera quite intensely. The way that he performs the song with the microphone, it's kind of erotic at times, and he's like stroking the microphone, and he's really getting into it, and basically expressing the emotions that this song provides, and conveying that visually, in a visual medium, in a way that we could only hear on the soundtrack itself and the single. So it's a good accompaniment. I think it's like a really simple video, but if you're into watching Prince perform, and you're into watching him move and interact with the camera and the viewers, then I think it's a really good one. If you're looking for a story, or looking for some kind of like cool visual cues, maybe it's going to come across as a little too simple for your taste. But
yeah,
I like it. What are your thoughts on the video, Chris?
Yeah, I dig it as well. When I saw the music video for the first time, I took it as like, this is Prince's way of maybe he took some inspiration from Jennifer Beal on Flashdance or something. Like, this is his interpretation of it, or Magic Mike before Magic Mike was a thing.
Right.
But no, you're right though. I can appreciate the music video because it does highlight one of his more underrated talents, which is he does a magnificent job of performing on stage. And usually when we think of performance, we're thinking him with instruments or things like that. But I do think he is an underrated dancer, and also with his facial expressions. Like, he has a Charlie Chaplin thing about him where he can tell a story by just with a stare, or giving someone the side eye, like that kind of thing. Like, so it's great to see that sort of that sort of platform highlight that element about his artistry. I think it is one of the more underrated parts of who he is as an entertainer.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree with that more. And as far as like this song, to me, this song's strengths lie in Prince's vocal performance. I like the music. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say I don't. But I think where this song's strengths lie is in the way Prince performs the song. So it's a very seductive track. Throughout this song, he's singing about how he wants to, be with somebody, and he just can't wait. It's going to be scandalous. It's going to be marvelous. It's going to be amazing. Tell him what to do. And just these are the things that he's conveying throughout the lyrics of the song. But the way he performs it, like, his voice cracks at times. It's kind of raspy sounding. It sounds like it's straining a bit in a way that his falsetto wasn't straining in his early career. Like, when he would do his falsetto on For You or Prince or Dirty Mind, it was like a really clean falsetto. and he can still do that, and he continued to do that throughout his career. But there's something about his vocal performance on this song that just sounds a little different to me. And I don't know if it's intentional or if it was just the way that he was singing this song, but there seems to be like a desperation or desire, like an overwhelming desire throughout his vocal performance that comes through, I think, in a way that it maybe doesn't on some of his other ballads. Like, it certainly didn't come through that way in Arms of Orion. That was a more sincere, duet. This one is much more sensual and much more erotic, even though it's not explicit really at all. Not in a way that some of his other, ballads of this ilk can come across. This is a pretty chaste song overall. There's a couple of lines that you can interpret to mean things, but I mean, as far as his performance of this song, do you think that that's one of the strongest aspects of the song to you, Chris, or what do you find to be the most compelling part of the song? Is it the lyrics? Is it the music? Is it the performance? Is it a combination?
Yeah. Honestly, I would say it's a combination. But since we're on the topic of his vocal ability, then yes, I do think that it is. If I had to rank them, prioritize them, I would say that his vocal ability is at the top of the list. Because again, like you said, like there's moments where his falsetto is elegant, and then there's other times that it's a little edgy, and it's reminiscent of "Do Me Baby," like in that way where there's some there's some edginess to it, but there's still some grace that comes with it. So I think it's sort of a callback, whether it was intentional or not, to a ballad, or a love song like "Do Me Baby." Like, to me, it was a throwback to that era.
Yeah, and I would agree. And I actually really like "Do Me Baby," which maybe explains why I like this song so much as well.
Yeah.
I will just mention also briefly, and I haven't decided how I'm going to handle this for the podcast, but there's a whole EP surrounding this song, the Scandalous Sex Suite.
Yes.
It's got 3 tracks that basically are reimagined versions of this song. He labels them the crime, the passion, and the rapture. And there's also a B-side on the 12-inch single for Scandalous called Sex. And so, you combine Scandalous, you combine Sex, and you combine the Scandalous Sex Suite, you've got 30 to 40 minutes worth of music that leans heavily onto this core track as the basis. So if you love Scandalous, then what are you doing? Buy a Scandalous Sex Suite, because it's this times about 5. I mean, it's a solid EP. I really enjoyed that EP, and it's also kind of infamous for having his girlfriend at the time, the actress Kim Basinger, on it. Played, of course, Vicky Vale in Batman. She's present on the album. I'll just put it that way. And I always kind of wondered, because as we get towards the end of this song, you kind of hear some female vocals, we'll call it moaning, whimpering. And I don't know who exactly that is. I don't know if you ever uncovered that, if it's Kim but I don't think unless he added it post-production, because if he wouldn't have met her yet in the fall of 1988. So I'm not sure who that is. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so I'm so glad you brought that up, because I was like, are we going to say that towards the end, or are we going to tackle it now?
I got ahead of myself, so we're talking about it now.
Perfect. Okay, so in my article, I said that if you want to learn how to speak fluent pillow talk, then the Scandalous Sex Suite is your Rosetta Stone.
Yeah.
Like that's my whole take on it. Now, since we were talking about vocals a moment ago, my favorite part of the EP is the passion. Because of the delayed vocal delivery, you can hear him, sing some other parts behind the main version that we know from the album. And it's very similar to what he would do with Pop Life or more importantly, Forever in My Life, where there was a bit of a delay there. To me, that gives the song an extra dash of charm there. And one of my favorite parts throughout the whole EP, where Kim Basinger says, "It's so dark in here," and Prince says, "I can see you. What do I look like?" overdressed. I was like, yo, that's so dope, man. Like, you know, Princess is out here just having a good time, man. But yeah, about the feminine sound effects that you hear at the end, I found out through the Chicago Tribune. They wrote an article about this EP when it first came out, and the buzz was that things got steamy during the recording sessions. That Prince had used a jar of honey to get her in the mood to record that song. And when staff came in the next day, they had to scrape off honey from the mixing board because things got so steamy. So I'm like, yo, like my man Prince is out here, bro. He's out here.
Dripping honey all over the
recording
consoles.
Like, hey, do what you got to do, man, for the record. If it makes its way on record, then do that. But that is one
anything for the art.
Yeah, anything for the art, right? but that is something that I think should be a credit to Prince, is that I would say we haven't heard anyone capture sex on record like that probably since Marvin Gaye with "Let's Get It On." Like that to me, if that record cracked the bedroom door open, you know, "Let's Get It On," then a record like "Scandalous" rips that door off the hinges when you take into consideration what the Chicago Tribune had written, you know, about the recording of this song. So, I mean, like, that's just, you know, hats off to Prince on that, because it, and I hate to sound like that old guy, you know, get off my lawn kind of thing, but there's no seduction in much of today's music. Yeah. And I wonder if some of these young cats are, you know, like, you got to get a woman in the mood, you know, like, you know, like there is an element of mystery and excitement that comes with sex. And I think a lot of guys are just so used to, you know, just cut to the chase, you know, and it's like, no, like there's gotta be some excitement in it too, you know, and it's for the both of you.
Agreed. And I think that we've engaged in enough foreplay here, Chris. We should probably, we should probably get started on talking about the lyrics. You ready?
Let's go. Yeah.
Okay. So the very first verse of the song is quite lengthy. There's a lot of lines going on here, a lot of stuff going on. So he doesn't have like a typical structure with, you know, 4 or 5 lines, chorus, another 4 or 5 lines, chorus. This first verse takes a while to get through, so bear with me. Come closer. Feel what you've been dying for. Don't be afraid, baby. Touch it and explode. Understand that I love you. But more than that, I want you. Everybody always told me good things come to those who wait. But I've got so much on the menu, I just can't. I can't wait, baby. I can't wait, baby. I could wrap my legs around you, girl. 'Cause sugar, you know, you're just the kind of lover that I've been looking for. Tonight, why don't we skip all the foreplay, mama, and just get down here on the floor? Okay, now that line, I can wrap my, did I say that right? Is it I can't wait to wrap my legs around you, girl, or I can wrap my legs around you, girl? I don't have the
I have here, yeah, I'm looking at the lyrics, till I can wrap my legs all around you, girl.
Okay, yeah, all right. I can't wait till I can wrap my legs around you, girl. All right, got it right. I found lately, like, I sometimes question what's on the internet, and I should be using the Batman printed lyrics. Mm-hmm. They're so damn small, and my eyes aren't as good anymore, so I have to revert to these nice big transcribed lyrics, but then I have to always like question, is that accurate? Because there's been too many times where I found that they aren't. So anyway, I think we got it.
Yep.
So there's, like I said, there's a lot going on here, you know, and then this is all sung very seductively and very slowly. Mm-hmm. Like that whole thing that I just read, you know, takes like, I don't know, maybe a solid minute. Mm-hmm. For Prince to get through to sing, because he has intentional pauses in there, and some of the repeating lines there's pauses for effect, and he draws certain lines out. So me reading it doesn't obviously do the song and the performance justice. Not that it's expected to, but nevertheless, you know, the way I look at it, this is a really kind of intense first verse. It gives the listener exactly what this song is about. It's about, you know, a potential sexual encounter that he's having or wants to have with this woman. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of anticipation being built up here. this is all about anticipation to me. Like, if I had to use one word to sum up this first verse, that's what I would use.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts, and what are some of your takeaways on this first verse, Chris?
Yeah, I think you summed it up quite well. The only thing that I would add to it is that, like you said, I would describe it as a quiet storm of seduction. You know, it takes its time, and it's not afraid to get a little playful, a little raunchy, you know, in some of the lyrics. But yeah, when you take that first verse and then you couple it with, you know, his simple use of the Lindrum, the synth strings, and that kind of thing. Like, the whole thing has the power to dim lights and ignite candles on their own accord. I mean, like, that's just like perfect, you know, slow jam, you know, set the mood kind of vibe that he was going for. So that's what I get from the first verse. It sets the mood just right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he makes sure that we know that it's mutual, because he says things like "feel what you've been dying for." So that line by itself tells us that she's wanting it as much as he does, and then of course later on he expresses how much he wants it by the line, good things come to those who wait, but I've got so much on the menu, I just can't wait. I just can't wait, baby. You're just the kind of lover I've been looking for. And then that last line, that last couplet of lines at the end of the verse, I think is one of the more memorable lines of the song. Like, things that when you're listening to the song, there's lines and words that I always kind of, when I think of the song, I think of the words or the lines that I think of early on. Don't be afraid, touch it and explode. That's kind of a clear euphemism, but it's also, or it can be a double entendre, but I think it's also very just like, a lot of things that could be interpreted to mean, you know, touch my body, touch, you know, each other, and what will explode? A desire explodes, the need and the want, but then of course there's the double entendre that fits along with that. Then at the end, why don't we skip the foreplay and get down here on the floor? Which is interesting for him to say that, because in Prince's his sexy time ballads, as I like to call them, he's all about the foreplay. Like, the foreplay is like 90% of what he sings about. You know, the seduction, the anticipation, the building of pleasure through just things other than penetrative sex, right? Like, it's all about foreplay, about Prince's music. But in this song, he's basically saying, we've already kind of gone through all of that. We're experiencing what we're experiencing right now has been a long lead up, is what I get out of it, at least. A long lead up, a lot of teasing each other and seduction and anticipation, as I mentioned. Damn it, it's time to actually consummate this thing. Let's get down here on the floor and just do it. We're going to do it. And that's what I get from, like, that line here. So he's tired. He's had enough. He's had enough of the anticipation and the foreplay. Let's just finally do the deed.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you said that, because if we look at the liner notes here, Scandalous is sung from the perspective of Batman, which to me makes this a companion piece to The Arms of Orion, which is a duet between Vicky Vale and Bruce Wayne, you know, the characters. So I think with the Batman side of Bruce Wayne, you know, he is more, you know, adventurous or ambitious. So he's like, yo, like, let's just get to it. You know what I mean? And then we also got to think the track before that, Lemon Crush, is sung from the perspective of Vicky Vale. And, you know, she's, you know, wrestling with, you know, her emotions of how she feels about Batman and Bruce Wayne, and, you know, that whole, you know, the whole dilemma there. So again, I think that's the beauty of this concept album. And I stress that because that is a quality that is also lacking from today's music, is that, you know, artists like Prince, Michael Jackson, whoever, they took the time to build a world with their albums. And this is what Prince has done. I mean, to me, this is him, you know, being a comic book artist in his own way. Like, he's telling this unique story that complements the movie. Yet if you know, take these songs as they are, it's as if he's created his own comic book movie in a way. So I'm with you. I think that, you know, this is, you know, him just cutting to the chase of like, you know what, like, hey, let's stop pussyfooting around. Let's get to it. Let's just get down here on the floor.
Yeah, the whole album, or half the album, has been lead up and anticipation, and you bring up a good point with Lemon Crush being this track before this, because that is a song that is very focused on the romantic aspects of the plot between Bruce / Batman and Vicky. Most of the album doesn't really focus too much on the nefarious side of the film. We've got a couple of Joker songs, and but other than that, it's heavily focused on their romantic relationship. But anyway, so yeah, I'm with you on that. It makes for a nice 1-2 punch. Vicky and Batman singing these songs back to back, and it makes sense for this to come after Lemon Crush, because Lemon Crush is also more about unrequited or unfinished business. She's not sure if she wants it, then eventually she decides she is. She's really into him, and she's also just as eager, I think, as Batman is.
Well said.
All right, so then the chorus is a chorus that we get a few times in the song, so I'll read it this one time. Scandalous, talking about you and me. Marvelous, baby, baby, can't you see? Anything you've ever dreamed of, I'm willing to be. Tonight it's going to be scandalous, because tonight I'm going to be your fantasy. All right, so the chorus is... I like the chorus because it kind of it tells us that when they get down on the floor, they're skipping the foreplay and they're getting down on the floor. That is kind of a lead into this chorus, and he's already telling us through that line in this chorus that we have to use our imaginations a bit as to what it is that they're going to do that's going to be so scandalous. So it's a fun kind of like way to describe some like really freaky sex, like it's going to be scandalous. It's going to be amazing, but also like if our parents found out or if our friends knew, they would consider it scandalous. And also you could look at it as being scandalous in the context of Batman. And I know this song was not written with Batman in mind,
right?
But there's a lot of retrofitting going on with these songs. And I'm cool with that because I like kind of retrofitting things too with my lyrical breakdowns. Is the whole relationship between the Caped Crusader and a civilian would be considered scandalous as well. Dating Batman. I mean, who gets to do that? How does he even have the capacity to date or to have a romantic relationship with somebody? So by default, their relationship is scandalous. So then you throw in some really hot sex on top of it. You've got a scandalous situation.
You sure do.
and I know when Prince was writing this, he wasn't thinking of that in particular. He was just kind of like, Insatiable and some of those other songs that he's written, the sexy time ballads. It's a nice fun word to use to describe a sexual encounter that's going to be basically the bomb for both of them, and he's capable of providing that, is what he's trying to say in the song. And together, like her passion, his passion together is just going to be, it's going to be marvelous, as he calls it, and it's going to be something quite memorable.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned about retrofitting, because when I see the lines, I'm talking about you and me. Anything you've ever dreamed of, I'm willing to be. I don't think, even though the song is sung from Batman's perspective, I think this chorus is a mutual statement from both Vicky Vale and Batman. Because with Batman, if we go back to Vicky Waiting, which is one of my favorite songs on the record, he wanted the same things as everyone else. Like he wants to be this family man, but his obligation to be Batman is the reason why he doesn't have it. So now Kim is fulfilling that fantasy for him, and then he's fulfilling a fantasy of hers where she's also looking for companionship, and it happens to be this billionaire playboy Bruce Wayne, who also masquerades at night giving people dirt naps as Batman. So yeah, like it's just, I see it as a mutual statement from both characters, Vicky Vale and Batman, in that way. And like you said, I'm sure at the time when he originally wrote this, he wasn't thinking that far ahead. But when it came time to consider songs for the album, I'm sure some of this probably was going through his mind of like, okay, I see how this fits within the context of the movie.
Mm-hmm. I would imagine so as well. I like the line, because tonight I'm going to be your fantasy, because again, that falls in line very cleanly with a lot of Prince's ballads, where he's expressed a desire to be the best lover that he can possibly be. Mm-hmm. There's nothing ever been any selfish intentions with most of Prince's ballads and love songs and sex songs. Tonight I'm going to be your fantasy. I'm here for you. Mm-hmm. And maybe that means keeping his cape on. You know, I mean, maybe that's his fantasy.
Well played.
She wants to role play a little bit. You know, I'm just joking, but nevertheless, I think just the fact that he opens it up there, and tonight I'm going to be your fantasy, tells me that he's basically down for whatever it takes to make her happy in this encounter, and go above and beyond, basically, to fulfill whatever fantasy she has.
And I'm glad you brought that up too, because it reminds me of a comment I made at the top of the episode, where we've made so many things of this versus that when there's room for both. And I think that that's the case here when it comes to sex. You know, if it's aggressive or raunchy, you know, sometimes that can come from a selfish place of like, no, like, hey, you're going to do what I want you to do. But here there's tenderness, like he caresses it a little bit, which is how sex can be. Like it should be thinking of the other person and wanting to please them, you know, so that comes from a place of selflessness. So I think that, and if you look at the B-side of this, like you said, with sex, and then underneath that you have When Two Are in Love, I don't think that that's an accident. You know, like that sex is a nuanced experience for both people. You know, yeah, it can be aggressive, it can be exciting, but it can also be, you know, tender, and you are thinking of the other person, you know, like it can be passionate in a pure way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agreed 100%. Well said. Anything else with the chorus before we move on, Chris?
No, I think we've covered it.
Okay, so after that line, because tonight I'm going to be your fantasy, we get the second verse, and I think again this really they meld well together. Like the theme of that last line, just like with the end of the first verse going into the chorus, now the end of the first or the last line of the chorus going into the second verse, to me really goes well together. The second verse is much shorter than the first. The lines are, my dearest, whisper a question. With my body, and there's some echoing going on here. With my body, I'll scream a reply. Anything's acceptable. Just ask me and I'll try it. To hell with hesitation. To hell with the reasons why. So the reason why I said I think that they go well together, that last line, tonight I'm going to be your fantasy, in this second verse, is because he's asking, you know, he seems to be asking a lot of questions. You know, he wants to, you know, basically have them throw caution to the wind, and there's nothing that he wouldn't consider doing with her. Right. Just ask me and I'll try it. You know, throw away hesitation and get rid of your reasons why that you might say no or might not even consider doing this. What I'm, you know, suggesting that we do, or if it's something that's been in your fantasy, meaning like the last line of the chorus, now's the time. You know, present your fantasies to me, and we'll see if we can make it happen. I'm open to it, is what he's kind of saying. And this is what I'm hearing in the second chorus, or the second verse. Yeah. What do you see here, Chris, that kind of calls out to you, or what do you like about this second verse?
Yeah. What I like about this second verse is something I've shared about the song Adore, is that Prince's style was being able to tug on women's heartstrings as well as their bra straps. And that's exactly what this second verse does. There's tenderness, yet there's a little bit of excitement and raunchiness to it, of like, you know, hey, like, you know, I'm down for whatever, like, you know, let's have some fun.
Mm-hmm. Anything's acceptable. Just ask me and I'll try it. So even if it's stuff that he's never done himself, he feels that comfortable with her and he's trying to make sure that he provides an avenue for her to feel that same comfort level with him.
Right.
Ask me and I'll try it. To hell with the hesitations, to hell with the reasons why. So again, I think that we pretty much are in agreement that this second verse has tenderness, but also a lot of eroticism and openness to exploring whatever fantasies that the two of them have together.
Yeah.
So then we get the chorus again. The chorus is the same. Scandalous, I'm talking about you and me. Marvelous, baby, baby, can't you see? Anything you've ever dreamed of, I'm willing to be. Tonight it's going to be scandalous, because tonight I'm going to be your fantasy. And then we get what I'll call the third verse. There's a couple of lines here at the very beginning of this verse where he just kind of speaks the words. Oh girl, the things you make me do. Genius is the only way to describe you. And then he goes back into his singing voice. Anything you've ever dreamed of, baby, just ask me. I'll do it for you, baby. Anything at all. Spirits rise and spirits fall. Anything you ever dreamed of, I'm willing to be. Tonight it's going to be scandalous, because tonight I'm going to be your fantasy. Mm-hmm. So a lot of kind of like the same sentiments being expressed here in the third verse, Chris. What do you see or like about this last grouping of original lyrics or lines?
Yeah, this lyric here gives me two perspectives. Oh girl, the things you make me do, genius is the only way to describe you. So the one aspect of it, if we keep it within the context of the Batman soundtrack, this is Batman, sort of admitting to Vicky Vale, like, hey, like, I didn't think it was possible for anybody to crack the code on me, but you found a way in when I didn't expect it, because Batman is always known for thinking 10 steps ahead of everybody, but here he is, he's vulnerable, but he has no problem admitting that to her because he knows that it's consensual and it's, there's a respect there. So within the context of the Batman soundtrack, that's how that line strikes me. And then on the other side of it, if we put it in Prince terms, I'm reminded of, the approach that he brought to the Love Sexy album. There is an adoration for the female anatomy, and he's always had that. But I also think that he's marveled at the pairing of one man and one woman, like just the intimacy that he and Vicky Vale, the Vicky Vale character, or just any woman that, that Prince was singing at that time, like he's, in awe of the intimacy that comes out of that. It is a beautiful thing, which is what sex is supposed to be. I think we've turned it into something nasty just because it's in our nature to kind of ruin things. For instance, people have described sex as doing the nasty. It doesn't have to be that way. So if you're projecting something onto something that's pure, then that says more about you than it does about whatever it is you're looking at. So that's how I read that particular line from two different perspectives. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. And I always find it interesting when he uses the word genius, which isn't very often. I don't know if I've ever really run across him using the word genius in a song. And it's just interesting to me because people use that word to describe Prince a lot, right? Especially now that he's passed on. Mm-hmm. Genius. Prince is a genius. He's a musical genius. He's a savant, et cetera, et cetera. And it's genuine. People aren't just blowing smoke up his ass because he's not here anymore. So it's really just like people genuinely believe that he was a musical genius, and I don't argue with that because I agree.
Right.
So for him to say that in a song, in a love song, I think it's something interesting about it for him to use that term to speak or to describe his lover, as a genius. Yeah. It just makes me wonder, like, he must really have that same affection for her to call her something so flattering. I mean, that's a really flattering thing to say about somebody, is to call them a genius.
Yeah.
It kind of it makes me think like he really is into her mind too,
Yes.
He's into more than just her body. Mm-hmm. And the physical aspects of her that he finds attractive. He's into her mind, because you don't call somebody with a smoking body a genius, right?
Yeah.
That's not, if that's all they have, and all they have to offer, genius is not typically a word you would use.
Right, right. And that when I think of the muses that Prince had in his career, I would say that God takes the top spot because of Love Sexy. And there's other songs throughout his catalog where you could see the influence that God has had on his music. But then right underneath that would be a woman. Like there have been plenty of women in his life that have inspired some of his greatest work. You know, Vanity with The Beautiful Ones, you know, Susanna with If I Was Your Girlfriend and Adore, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
I think that this, you know, whether he is given this credit to Kim Basinger, or I think around this time he was also dating, you know, Anna Fantastic around this time. So maybe she was the initial inspiration for it. I don't know, but yeah, I think women have a great way of motivating men. And I think that that's his way of like, you know, like, man, girl, the things you make me do, like, man, you know, like he's, yeah, like that's his way of like, you know, tipping his hat, you know, showing respect to the opposite sex.
Yeah, God and women would be his top two muses for sure. I would agree with you there.
Yeah, man.
I mean, Maite inspired a whole album worth of
exactly. Yeah, yeah, with the Kama Sutra.
Yeah. I mean, just multiple albums.
Yeah. Emancipation and all that. Yeah,
for sure. And what I just also like about, or maybe not like, but just wanted to point out, I don't have any negative thoughts either. I'm not trying to say I don't like it, but he just keeps repeating like throughout this. The sentiment in this third verse, similar to what he's in the second verse, that he'll do anything. Just ask me. I'll do it. I'll do it for you, baby. Anything at all. Yeah. Like he just keeps repeating that. Anything you've ever dreamed of, I'm willing to be. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like he's begging her to push his boundaries a little bit. Almost like he's not wanting to be the aggressor or the initiator of whatever it is that they're going to do. Like, it's really up to her. Like, she needs to communicate that. And whatever she wants to do, he's willing to do. But I get the feeling that he wants her to push his boundaries a bit in the bedroom.
Yeah.
And I dig that. I dig that because it's almost like I wouldn't say he's taking a submissive role in this relationship or this sexual encounter specifically.
Yeah.
But he's basically saying, like, I am willing to do anything. You have to tell me what it is that you want to do. And there's certain songs that Prince will flip that, and he'll talk about what he's going to do to her or do with her. And he's very, aggressive and communicative about those things. This one, it's just so open-ended because he's just saying, whatever it is you want to do, I'll do it. Mm-hmm. Whatever you want me to be, I'll be it. Tonight, It's all about you. It's about your fantasies and fulfilling your fantasies, and however I can participate and facilitate that, that's what I'm here for. You tell me.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned that because that triggered a thought that came to me was I could also read that line as if both Vicky Vale and Batman are telling each other the same thing of like, hey, like, I know we're both, kind of intimidated by the situation. Like there's a lot at risk here, but it's okay. Like, I want you to know that it's okay. So I think that's why they're both repeating it to each other in a way of, hey, I want you to know, like, hey, I'm willing to do whatever, that's going to make this thing work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's a really interesting song from that perspective, just because Prince does typically, not always, there's other examples, but he typically takes a more, just a more dominant approach.
Yeah, a more assertive approach.
Assertive, thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. A more assertive approach. And this one, he's not being assertive at all, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Other than just he's telling her he's willing to do whatever, but that's a very passive kind of approach. Like, whatever you want to do, I'll do it. I'll be it. But it doesn't make it less sexy. It doesn't make it less. I mean, like, women. I think there needs to be a give and take with that. Like in a healthy sexual relationship, there should be give and take there. It shouldn't always be one person being the assertive one, unless they agree ahead of time that that's how they want their sexual relationship to be. Yeah. But for the most part, having it be like, hey, tonight it's going to be all about you. Tonight's going to be fulfilling your fantasies. Maybe tomorrow night we'll get down, figure out what it is that I'm interested in, and open up my little Kama Sutra book and find something to get into. But tonight we've already pre-established this. This is what we're doing. It's all about you and me, but also it's all about your fantasies. And that's Scandalous, man. That's Scandalous. That's the song.
Yeah. It is. And even there, I think that there is a little bit of assertiveness there, by him, reaffirming her, saying, hey, like, just ask me, I'll do it for you. Like, so he is setting the tone. And I say that because I think human beings, we both have logic and emotion. I think most men tend to lean more towards logic, and women tend to lean more towards emotion. So I think Prince/Batman is, putting it out there, like he's more assertive and saying like, hey, let me tell you that, hey, this is okay. And then in return, she knows that it's going to be okay, and she'll show that through her actions, through her emotions.
Yeah, good point. Because by default, Batman, the character, has to be more assertive and aggressive in his, day-to-day life, just by the nature of who he is and what he does. So this is kind of his way of passing over, passing that baton to her, that he's okay with taking a different role tonight.
Yeah, man.
All right. So that takes us to the end of the song. The chorus is repeated again, and then, there's just another repeating of Scandalous, Marvelous as the song ends. But beyond that, we pretty much captured and covered the entire scope of the lyrics. It's a longish song. It's over 6 minutes long, the album version. There's a radio edit that's just over 3, and the 7-inch edit is a little over 4. But it's a very lyric-heavy track. There isn't a lot of music changes or chord changes, or there's no guitar solos or piano solos or anything like that. There's a little bit of saxophone, I think, in one of the versions. Yeah, the Rapture, that's the one. But otherwise, it's a fairly stripped down, simple song, musically speaking. Like the bells at the very beginning, the ding ding. Then you got the swelling of the kind of the strings. But beyond that, that's the songs, Chris. So do you have any final thoughts on the track itself?
I do. Yeah, we mentioned the Rapture a moment ago. I was going to say that the Rapture, if you take Alexa to Paris, like the guitar work that he did there, like to me, so I'll put it in a statement. The Rapture is Alexa to Paris meets When Two Are in Love, and it explodes in Batman's pants. I know that sounds kind of graphic, but again, like you take that, the finesse, guitar work of Alexa to Paris, and then you take the vulnerability and the intimacy of When Two Are in Love, which I don't think it's a coincidence that it's on the B side of the EP, and you just merge those together, and that's what the Rapture is, in one song. And speaking of the Scandalous Sex Suite, I would also make the argument that the Scandalous Sex Suite is why many babies were born 9 months after November 28th, 1989, when it dropped. So I think there are some
summer
people,
of 1990 babies.
Exactly. Like, yeah. Some of y'all owe your very lives to Prince, and you better put some respect on your daddy's name. You better say thank you.
Love it.
Yeah. But that's all I have, man. The Scandalous Sex Suite, again, does all the check marks that I gave you: cinematic storytelling, genre blurring sounds, limitless vocal range. You have your guitar god moments. There's global appeal, and there's a little touch of the bizarre, that comes with any Prince record. So it ticks all the boxes for me, and I consider it a classic. What about you?
Yeah, no, I agree. I love this song. I put it Scandalous up there with, I know people are going to say, what? But I put it up there with Do Me Baby and The Doors, some of his his top tier balladry, and not just in the 80s either, just like across the entire career.
Same here.
I love this song. I love this song. It's amazing.
Yeah, I would definitely say it's top 5 for me personally. I would also throw in Joint Repetition in that conversation.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So it's definitely up there amongst the other top 5. I've seen some people say that Insatiable is Scandalous's poor cousin. To me, that's I get it. Like, I know there's some sarcasm there, but to me, I think that's kind of that's a bit of a dig. But yeah, but yeah. Do you think, like, do you see a lot of similarities between Insatiable and Scandalous, and do you see it as lesser than, or do you think it's its own thing?
I see similarities for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like Insatiable as much as I like Scandalous. I'll just be honest. I like Insatiable, but I find Scandalous to be. I like the way he performs the song better. I think Insatiable. I don't know, just something about it. I like it, but it's just maybe not as musically compelling to me as Scandalous. I like I like the strings, I like the the bells, and I like Prince's vocal performance here better.
Yes,
but they're very comparable to me. It's not like one is significantly less impressive. They're both very good songs, and if you're asking me to choose one, I'm choosing Scandalous.
Yeah, me too. Between the two, I'm picking Scandalous every day and twice on Sunday.
There you go. All right, well, Chris, where can people find you and what you're up to?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. The handle is Chris Lacy 1990, ChrisLacy 1990. And as far as Prince projects that I'm working on, I'm working on Love Sexy 35. That'll be the next article that I'm working on. And I just checked. I was working on the article yesterday, and if I leave it as is, which is like unpolished and unfinished, I've already got 30 minutes worth of notes. Like, it would take you 30 minutes to read everything. So I will be trimming it down. Yeah, like I've been a madman with this Love Sexy 35 project, and when it's done, I think people, whether you've been a longtime Prince fan or you're a casual Prince fan, there's going to be something for you to pull away from this record, and hopefully you'll take it with you. Next time that you listen to it and you're like, oh wow, I remember Chris saying this, and it's been there all along in the record. I just didn't realize it. So like that's the reason why I enjoy telling the stories that I tell.
Yeah, cool. Well, I look forward to reading that when you're ready to drop it on us. And
of course,
Love Sexy was an amazing project.
Yeah,
you helped me on navigate that album as well with Anesthesia, so appreciate that. People need to check that episode out if you haven't already.
Yeah.
So thanks, Chris, for joining me on Scandalous.
Thank you for having me, man. I don't know what else you have planned, but I would love to come back if I'm still invited.
you certainly are. Well, we'll collaborate again, I promise.
Cool.
All right, this has been the Press Rewind Prince Lyrics podcast. I've been your host, Jason Brenninger. You can find the show YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. That's where you can follow the show. Check out what I'm also up to, non-podcast related, but still Prince related. I post heavily on all of those social media platforms. PressRewind.net is the website that I use to host the show. I also do some writing on there, not to the extent that Chris does, but certainly I've dipped my toes into other genres. I mean, I'm a fan of music in general. So I love all types of music. So, check it out when you get a chance. And until next time, thank you very much. And goodbye.